Hello everyone, welcome to Soul Journey. Soul Journey is a space where we dive deep into spiritual experiences, wisdom, and knowledge, exploring the path that leads us back to our inner true self. Through heartfelt conversations with seekers, guides, and mystics, we uncover their learning to help us connect, evolve, and journey within. Please know that we are not promoting any religion, not at all in these podcasts. It is only about gaining insight into our own growth and knowledge on spirituality. It's about our soul self and progress. Let's awaken the soul, embrace our truth, and find our way home. Please do subscribe and like our channel if you have watched any videos before, and do like and share our videos. It will really help us spread our message to greater audiences where they can connect. So in this special episode today, we are honored to speak with Ralph Singh, an author, educator, storyteller, and a community builder. Ralph Singh is a disciple of Baba Virsa Singh Ji Maharaj. Ralph has dedicated about 40 years of his life integrating spirituality, values, and wisdom into education, community development, and public life. As the chair of, as the chair and chief storyteller of the Wisdom Thinkers Network, he has brought multicultural wisdom stories into schools, fostering social, emotional learning, character education, and inner growth for the youth and youngsters. He has played a key role in developing Schools of Character project for the Central New York Education Consortium and taught exploring spirituality for upper school and adult education programs. His passion for global dialogues led him to establish Central New York Model United Nations Conference at Syracuse University, now drawing over 500 students from US and Canada. And as a pioneer in the interfaith movement, he has represented spiritual teachings on global platforms, serving as Babaji's translator and voice in international gatherings. So join us today as we explore his spiritual journey, his stories, his insights, his experience from Baba Virsa Singh Ji Maharaj, and the power of wisdom to transform lives. Good morning, Ralph. Thank you for being here for Soul Journey. I am truly honored by your presence, and I'm very excited to talk to you about spiritual journey that's particularly, related to your personal journey with Babaji Virsa Singh Ji Maharaj. And once again, thanks a lot. Please do share a little about yourself too.
Well, thank you, Kanji. Thank you for having me. Everything is a soul journey, and so it's good to be traveling along with you. As I was blessed to be Baba Virsa Singh Ji's first foreign devotee, and I'll share in a minute how he drew me to him. In general, I'd just like to frame, excuse me, I'd like just to frame our conversation in the sense that all life is a quest for truth. And growing up in America, I had never seen a Sikh in my life. I never knew there was such a tradition, religion as Sikhism. I did study in my studies, look for understandings and revelation of truth, and be it, excuse me, in the form of different religious traditions, in the form of science, in the form, however people would look in literature on revealing truth. But for me, there was a point that came that we have worldly teachers, material teachers, that there must be someone somewhere who can link me to truth, who has experienced truth, who understands that there is an authority for truth in the world. Because simply saying truth exists is like saying nature exists. And so it was with that thought or desire, and sometimes, just to digress quickly, I say that the first cry of a child when they are born is not simply one to gather air, but it's a cry of separation.
Yeah.
Soul suddenly, quickly separated from being at one with light, and now ushered and thrown into the world. And our whole life becomes a quest to find our way back. And if we're fortunate enough to find people along the way who can guide us and help us and not lead us astray and get us so caught up in the material world that we totally forget, we get lost. And unfortunately, in today's society, the minute a child becomes socialized, the link with the spiritual gets challenged, more and more challenged, and so the values are no longer one's spiritual values, but everything is valued in terms of the material success. And so in the midst of that, I had graduated college in 1970 and was accepted in graduate school. But I knew I had this strong, strong feeling, which I'd had since very early childhood, that there had to be another path. And I was sitting with a friend over a cup of tea, and in the blink of an eye, the room disappeared and he disappeared. And there was, in front of me, was standing this remarkable spiritual being with diamond-like light shining from his head, and his eyes literally held the universe. And he just held up his hand and said, "Don't be afraid," and proceeded to take me on a tour of the universe, drew me out through his eyes, toured me around, and made me feel like he possessed all knowledge I could ever attain, and as a role model was everything I could ever aspire to be. He brought me back and showed me something similar to an atom and said, "Meditate on this," and was gone. It was only a split second for my friend. For me, it was an eternity.
Yeah, that was huge. So how did you feel, at that moment when you saw this being of light, and were you scared? What happened to your, emotions at that moment?
I was certainly not scared at all. I was drawn up into the light, but I, uh, on one hand, you could say it was a startling experience. It was an amazing experience that I didn't know how to process. I had no idea what had happened to me. I certainly had no way of explaining it to my
Yeah.
friend. And so I went, thanked him for the tea and went back and drew a little picture in my diary and went around. I was in New York City. I finished up at Columbia. And uh, in the process, trying to find someone who could let me know what this might be, And they basically said, it's all yours, Ralph. You know, this vision was yours. So
So
what
when
it
you
did,
went looking for this person and this being, were you,
yeah,
or you were looking for something else?
let me put it this way. As I said, there was a longing,
Yeah.
a sense that there was another path I was to, that worldly education was not, we were not going to find full truth in worldly education, no matter how much knowledge. And my longing was to find someone who could lead me, connect me. So Babaji appeared. I didn't know who he was. I didn't even know if anyone existed, whether this was an archetypic vision. All I knew was that I had deferred my admission to graduate school, that there was a higher school, so to speak, a higher level of education that I was about to embark on. And I took off on a quest. At that time, I was in East Asian studies and Japanese area studies and looking at Buddhism in its various forms. And so I basically framed a travel period in which I would go to different Buddhist countries, different Buddhist societies, and see the impact in terms of Buddhism on those societies and also in terms of personal discipline. But what happened was something totally different, which even though I traveled overland, and the closer I got, this voice inside me that had been with me since I was a little 5-year-old kid was saying, my son, you'll be home in 7 days. You'll be home in 6 days. And when that final day came, I had crossed the border from Pakistan into India, and I ended up at the Golden Temple on the final day. And that was a total revelation to me. I'd never seen a Sikh before in my life. I never knew there was such a religion as Sikhism, even though I thought I'd studied all the world religions, the teachings of the world religions. And so this was absolutely remarkable. But I was looking for the one who was calling me. And even though I was brought to that spiritual home in Amritsar, I went down to Delhi, a friend who then took me out to the small village outside of Delhi. And there I came face to face with His Holy Baba Virsa Singh Ji Maharaj and recognized him immediately as the one who appeared to me in the vision in New York.
He brought you all the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, we sometimes we think we know a lot and we know where we're going. The truth of the matter is we know nothing. Everything is in God's hands. God runs the entire creation. And it's only through his order, his divine grace, divine command that anything happens. Even the fact that you contacted me or we were connected, that's all according to his order, according to his will.
Amazed because I met him in the late 70s, and he did initiate me, and I remember doing Jap Sab and Mantra Mala and the Havan sitting over there. It was a small I don't know, it was a small enclosure where we used to have a Havan,
Yeah,
and in Gobind Sadan.
yeah.
And it was a beautiful experience. Gobind Sadan was just under construction at that time. And I followed what all he had said, but I was very ignorant. I cannot deny that. I just graduated from a diploma school and moving on to another school, and then moved to Chandigarh for some years of my life. And then I lost him. I was still practicing. I was still doing my jap sahab and part as he had said, but then I never saw him again, like as I used to go to the ashram in the beginning, Gobind Sadan in the beginning. I didn't go there, and I was lost in my own affairs. And after so many years, though my aunt was connected to him, I don't know what happened with her. I mean, I lost touch with her as well. And it's now coming to Canada at this time. I was directed to contact somebody, and and then I started watching all the videos, and I really wanted to talk to you. And that's how I requested you. It's very interesting that how probably it's a calling to learn more a little bit where I lost myself. But what did Babaji say about the journey of the soul itself, like the existence of the soul? Did he say anything about that? This is something that I keep.
So again, Babaji's simple way of explaining it. First, he said to me, he looked at me when I walked in and smiled and said, welcome. And he said, you're a student. Have you found God in your books yet? And then broke into one of his wonderful laughs. And I laughed too, because that much I had known, that you can find God is not in books and learning. It's within us. And he said, this is God's school. And the first lesson, just like in normal learning, you have to first learn to read and write and count. Those are the prerequisites to learning. In God's school, the Pelu, the first lesson, is meditation, because everything is within you. And he said, the journey in the path is all connected in Taram. That Taram is the eternal power, the eternal school, the eternal lessons. And so it's a matter of you connecting inside and recite Ek Onkar Satnam Sri Vaheguru. I'd never heard those words before. Ek Onkar Satnam Sri Vaheguru. Onkar Satnam Sri Vaheguru. And he said, take this. Tomorrow, God's going to come and give you your final exam. And you're way behind in your studies. So take this prayer and recite it like you're cramming for your final. And so I wrote it in English, transliteration, took it to the room with a kind person. Gyanidhi took me under his wing and began to recite this. And within 15 minutes, no more than 20, it began to echo inside my mind. I couldn't think of anything else. I couldn't hear anything else. I couldn't sleep at night. I just all visions coming throughout the night. And when I got up in the morning, I felt like I was 3 feet off the ground. The power was so tremendous. And he came over and put his arm around me and said, how's your struggle going? Because there's a classic line in Gurbani, which is that Nam and the ego can't occupy the same territory. You have to get rid of your ego.
Yeah.
And so the struggle for maintain our sense of self that we build in the Western world, any outside, we build our egos. And the key thing is to let the ego go. And in the process of the journey of the soul, the issue always becomes, are we in control? No matter what, are we in control? And what you learn and what Babaji constantly shows is that we are subject to the will of God. The term, and I know you know, is hukum. It's God's order. What is the order for me? What is the order for me? Not, and so from Babaji's perspective, it was never a matter of where we are. It was never a sense of a stage, never a sense of who was where. There are many people who are blessed with tremendous healing powers, tremendous vision. He would, in an instant, just give a person a piece of prasad, and suddenly they're flying. And he showed me the universe.
Oh.
Planets, took me on a tour of the universe and saw planets with human life and all over. And but there was never a sense that this is at a particular stage or you're at a particular stage. And just so when you say, where is the journey of the soul is just constantly on a journey to meet God, to merge with God. But in the process, our karmas play out, and everything unfolds in that school of life as a test. And so we're not going to say, well, this was a test for you passed this test, and I never passed. I always failed. You learn from your failures. But these tests that we have in life, we're not going to say, okay, this was a test for the third stage or the fourth stage or whatever. It's rather how in this life, in this particular life, how much of our weaknesses can we overcome? How close to God within us can we come? Because I don't like the term. I don't like how quickly people use the term enlightenment or try and they may see a glimmer and think that, oh my goodness, I'm enlightened. That's the one thing that Babaji is absolutely adamant about. That what you want to do is become a better human being. Conquer your human frailties, conquer your human weaknesses, and live a life which is exemplary, a life of character, a life of caring and compassion and serving. Live like everyone else lives. Work harder than everybody else. He would say people have lost faith in God because those who sit in God's way, they block the light, and they take money from people, and they live all kinds of a life that isn't one of character. It isn't one of example. So why should people believe, if they say they're the representatives of God, why should anybody believe in God? And yet, so Babaji was very, very upset constantly with how those who are in leadership positions continually fail to live up to the teachings that they're supposedly representing. And that's true of the politicians as well as the religious leaders.
Yeah, I happened to come across one of his videos. I was looking for some information, and where he has been very explicit about the role of the priests, and they're all making, they're all business making, and they're making their own money, whether they are in the church, whether they are in the gurdwaras or they are in the temples. That is just a business for them. They are not really doing their job. So you don't find God there. And but coming back, sometimes I think that, when you said that it was the will of God, so there is also something that I've learned that is about free will. We all have our free will, during which, if everything was the will of God, we are doing the karma, the action as per the will of God, whatever that is happening. Um, and what does this free will give us? Like, is this the space where we change our karma to progress further, to, in our maybe elevate our spirit, our souls to better space to focus on God? Or what? Does it help in meditation? What is it all about?
Well, there are two things. First, we're an illusion. The fact that you're sitting there, I'm sitting here, or we even exist, it's an illusion. So to say that we have free will, yes, on one hand, we may think we have free will and we act according to it, but on another level, free will itself is an illusion. And what the realities that we create, endless realities, they're all illusion. The point, I mean, I could, you can knock on wood. So when you say it's illusion, somebody hits you over the head, that's not that, I don't mean that's an illusion. That's real. But that level of reality, the fact that there is a reality which is endless in the cosmos is endless, which, every time you get an image from the Webb or the Hubble, it's just endless, 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 as Jop Sahib, Guru Gobind Singh Ji's Jop Sahib. So the point is, what Babaji, he would literally not even close his eyes, but literally know, when you talk about the journey of a soul, he would know where you came from and where you're supposed to go, who you pray to, how you pray, and how he can help you reach your goals. Before he would go anywhere, he would stand and pray, but that he would be asking permission. The government of UP became very great devotees of him, and they had invited him to go to Lucknow, and they sent a special train for him to Delhi to take him and his entourage to Lucknow. They were so excited. They had set up everything, the full state visit, for lack of a better term. And he was naturally, I would use the word happy. He was happy that these people did, but and had everybody prepare, and everybody prepared. And before he got in the car to go to the train, he stood and then he stepped back and he said, "No, I can't go. There's no order. The order is there's no order for me to go." Now imagine something at that level, that to suddenly at the last minute to say, "I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to go." He would say, "You," to me or anybody else, he said, "You can hear an order and not obey, but I'm bound. Whatever that order comes, I must follow it." And so that's how he lived his whole life. He was, I have to say, I mean, he was born into a farming family after partition, had nothing, couldn't go to school because of the partition. And yet, to me and to most people, I mean, there's some of the most brilliant minds in the world would come and sit at his feet. Everything came to him through revelation. Where does that come from? To be tuned in. When I say God's order, the point is that we attune our minds to pick up all the stuff in the external stimuli constantly. But what Babaji is trying to tell people is learn to attune your mind to the voice of the infinite instead of the finite voice which plays inside us. And so meditation in Nam is attuning our minds. And so that becomes, then we're listening to that voice, which is very much part of it. I mean, some people would say that's the true self. That's the true self, as opposed to that which is dominated by our egos. But to me, I've learned that the true self is really of God.
So when one is doing the meditation and the jap and the mantra that Ekumkar Satnam Shri Vaheguru, that's when you get into the rhythm and the flow of that, that will take you into deep meditation as well. So is there, I mean, are we focusing on any soul, any space in our upper mind, or is it just the rhythm that takes, or the sound that drives you?
So first of all, there's a line in Gurbani which said, Gur ki murat man metyam, the image of your guru. You focus on the image of your guru and then listen to the voice of Nam. Gur ki mantar man. And so I'll tell you a funny story about that in a minute. But the light within the Sikh tradition most, but certainly as Guru Gobind Singh Ji speaks in Japsab, God has no form. God has no form. God doesn't come in birth. God is not subject to any power, not only on earth. God is the creator of all power, but he's beyond everything. And I'm only using he because there is no pronoun. God is beyond and appears in all forms. Everything is of God, and God is the same light is within everything. And that's a scientific fact, that it's the same light that's emanated, what scientists would call the Big Bang, from that, which still is radiating throughout the universe today and will always be there. That's just, I can tell you more stories about that. But the point being that when we look within us, if we are from a particular tradition, like Babaji would tell, he was invited to the Soviet Union and Christians, and he would say, look to Jesus. And so if someone is a lover of Buddhism, is a lover of the Buddha, he would grace them so they would be sitting, when they would sit in Samadhi, the Lord Buddha would be sitting in front of them. This happened when I was there, that we were growing roses. He was absolutely committed. I'm not really digressing. I'm coming to a key point, that he was absolutely adamant that we had to work hard, earn our own living, not to wouldn't accept any donations from anybody. He wanted everything to be self-sufficient. And so with the land, he himself would be out there plowing behind a bull. He himself would be milking. And so as the grounds were, the area was good for growing roses, we planted 4 acres of roses, and people from the embassy community would come out, among others, would find out. They'd come, and one man came who was from, I think it was still called the Burmese embassy at that point. And he was Buddhist. And so when Babaji said, what would you like? What would you like most? And he said, I'd love to be able to see Mahatma Buddha, Lord Buddha, when I sit in meditation. And Babaji said, go. So he came running back the next day, said, thanked him, because from that point on, every time he sat, there would be the Buddha in front of him. So it's not a matter of simply having that in our mind's eye. It's a reality. It's a reality that someone who loves Jesus, someone who loves Lord Krishna, Lord, whoever, I mean, the term in Hindi, so Punjabi, Sanskrit is isht, you're isht, whoever you love. And I'll just quickly say that there were many, many people who came, scientists who called themselves atheists, people from Russia or whatever, and he would laugh. And he said, it's only because you don't know. You very much may be in the light and you've never realized it, or you never knew that that was the light of God. And so there was one Russian scientist who was quite sick, and his friend said, come on, I'll take you to India, and there's a holy person who'll help cure you of your cancer. And he said, how? I'm not going to any holy, I don't believe in holy people. I'm a scientist and I'm an atheist. And his friend just grabbed him and said, look, you want to live for another few months? You come with me. So he did. So Babaji tells the story like a surgeon talking about one of his most difficult cases. He said, when somebody comes to me, the one they love first appears to me. If a Christian comes, Jesus would appear and tell him and speak to Babaji or the prophet, peace be upon him. And he said, in this case, I said, what do you, so I asked him, I couldn't ask him who he believed in and who because he didn't have any. And he said, I just finally asked him, what do you love? Do you love? And the man said, I love cats. So Babaji said, go and meditate and sit and go. And the man came back the next day and said, I don't believe it. Every time I close my eyes, I'm surrounded by cats and there's light coming out of the cats. And I feel so his cats, his love of his cats, the same light in all creatures and everything. Yeah. And that's the point. How do you connect to the light and feel that you're being led and feel that you're being empowered? Don't we talk about we want to be empowered? We want to be empowered and we want to find the path. And so if through the light and being able to listen and hear that voice of not the voice, the finite voice, but if we can hear and we're attuned, then we can hear, as Babaji does, you can hear the orders for when it's going to rain, when it's going to be sunny, when it's going to, whatever is going on in the world and whatever is you need in your life. And then you understand that you're all part of it. And that light of God is in everything. And you begin to see that light in all people. So your prejudices fall away. Your anger starts to ease because after all, we all make mistakes. And so the great thing about Babaji was he would model it of how to work and then how to serve people.
I have, I never knew. I just got to know about it lately that he had, spaces for all religions at Gobind Sadan. Like there is a space for to worship any religious god or goddess, whatever, you have spaces there. And how did that happen? Because in the early 70s, it was not there. And this Institute of Learning is also very unique in its own way, which is formed.
Babaji wanted people to understand when Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, okay, there is Manas Ki Jat, there's one light in everyone, we're all the, and the, in Chope Saw, there's only one avatar. The avatar comes in so many different forms. And however you worship, you're worshiping the same light. And he wanted people to experience that. He didn't put it up to be a symbol, as many people may in the interfaith movement. We have all the symbols to say, okay, everybody's welcome, but that's different.
Yeah.
This is saying that they're all part of the same light. They all come from the same place. And here's a way that you can experience that. Have somebody who has no connection with Sanatan Dharam sit at the oven and meditate and feel the power of the light that's there. Then when you're in the presence of Granth Sahib, naturally, everything, the light and the teachings are all there. That, as Babaji often quotes, is Guru Nanak saying, don't say the people of the book or the Katal of the Jews or the Christians and Islam, or the Vedas, or false. False are the people who misinterpret, who don't follow their teachings. And so if somebody's not following the teachings, somebody's doing a preaching against, or they're corrupt, or their character is, like the modern political leaders. Don't say that the religion is wrong. Don't say that the teachings are wrong. Don't question the prophet or the one who brought the teachings. Question the ones who are misrepresenting it. And so he wanted everybody to have that experience and understand that that's present everywhere.
Yeah. And I know you have a very limited time. You're traveling, and I hope I can talk to you again once you're back or at a later time. But my question is, if somebody is interested, wants to work on himself or herself, there are so many things that are happening in our lives. We have our families, our children, our work, and then I would say there is drama associated with it. Drama can be interesting, can be painful, can be anything. And then one gets, little shaken up, like whether to continue. There is no time to continue their faith or practice and meditation, whatever they are doing. They are, it works as a deterrent that, there's so much of pain and grief. What is your advice for that? What did Babaji want, or what were his thoughts on this?
Well, we always say that people say that tapasya, but there's no harder path. This word from time of Guru Nanak, there's no harder path than the one that you speak of. Live in the world, take on the same challenges that everybody else has, and yet through your Nam and your prayer, you learn to rise above it. Just that image of a lotus being stuck in the mud, and yet the flower blooms across, and we're constantly in the mud. We're constantly getting stuck, and yet Nam pulls us out and keeps our head above water. And that's the idea, that to be an example in your life and to struggle. That's where the gurus would say, Kya ban ko try. What are you going to go off in the forest for? What are you going to, Guru Nanak went to the peaks to talk to the Siddhs and the yogis who were extending their lives for 1,000 years or whatever. He said, what's the use of the world's burning? If you have any sense of spiritual power, go down and help the people. What's the use of sitting on a mountain? God's not going to be happy with you while the people are suffering. And so dharam, sense of dharam is to be moved, that you become more compassionate. You see love in everything and you care about everyone and everything. And you do everything in your power to help. And in that process, your own karmas are clean, and the real power begins to come through you. So if we don't have challenges, look at athletes, the people who train. They take on tremendous challenges to get themselves in shape to run a race or perform at the highest level. We're supposed to be human beings performing at a highest level. If we're on a spiritual path, we're supposed to be the best possible human beings, to play the game of life to the utmost, to show that by following and coming closer to God, it will make us better human beings and better able to handle all the problems. Even though grief goes on and everything, the point is to stay close to God and trust.
Isn't this karma a very vicious cycle that you try and work on yourself, and yet, you are humans, you will commit a mistake, and then you get trapped in that cycle of karma again, karmic cycle, and you can't get out of it. Maybe, is it that, what are your thoughts on it? I have another follow-up question with this, but what are your thoughts about this?
Well, there's a common term called an egocentric predicament, that we get in the way. And that's where surrender, that's where we say, okay, I don't know what I'm doing. You can be the brightest person in the world, you may have no, and that's where the point of gyan is divine knowledge. It isn't just knowledge. Gyan is being able to hear what the answer is. And so the idea is that if we're on the path, there are always going to be places that we get tripped up. As you said, we're all human. We have frailties and emotions, we have things. And yet our greatest love challenges, our greatest love is with God and our gurus, and Nam and Jap Sab are ways of just building our love and building our strength. So perhaps we can continue. I thoroughly enjoy sharing Babaji's experiences and my experiences. Perhaps we can.
Yes, I understand. I realize that. I said we have gone a little, it's about 45 minutes, a little over 45 minutes. And but I really appreciate your presence here, Ralph. I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful to Babaji and for connecting me with you. I don't know how this happened. When I look back at the events, how it happened, it's just unbelievable. I still can't believe it.
Well, see, this is what I'm saying. Let me get out of the way. I have this great picture of him behind me. If I step out of the way, maybe, and let his blessings come on.
Yeah. Yes, I remember him so closely.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let
yeah.
your viewers see. So his blessings, Ek Onkar Satnam Sri Vaheguru, Ek Onkar Satnam Sri Vaheguru, Ek Onkar. May everyone be filled with great light of love and spread that light wherever you go. Now is a time of the world may seem in great darkness, but at the time when things are so dark, the light will shine ever more brightly, ever more brightly. So just always know that you're all warriors of light, and meant to spread light wherever you go. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And I look forward to our another meeting and ask you more questions, learn more from you.
Well, that's whatever he has me say, I will share.
Yeah.
So thanks. We'll see if I have time in India, I'll let you know. I mean,
Yes.
I'll have a connection. But it is, you see, it's absolutely amazing. I didn't say, but this was February of 1971 when he
Wow.
did that.
Yeah.
So have a great day.
Yeah, you have a safe trip to India.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much once again.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.